This right here is ChatGPT, and this right here is ChatGPT Work. Can you tell the difference? One works like a colleague, and the other one works like an answer bot. ChatGPT can now look at your day, work on items, and do tasks for you. And you could be optimizing it with ChatGPT Work. So today I'm going to show you around how to use it, how to optimize it, and a few use cases to get you started. Think of this as Codex, but for everyday working people. And if you don't even know what Codex is, I'll explain that in this video. You can use the timestamps to jump across this video if you're already versed, but we're going to start with the basics. So as you can see here on screen, this is regular ChatGPT and this is ChatGPT Work. Now you'll notice a few differences here. So regular ChatGPT is really good for answering questions and just those regular everyday conversations, whereas Work allows you to connect to local files and also do a lot more with plugins. So there are a few different things happening down here. You've got the regular bar, but you also have a plus bar, which allows you to add things like a goal, plan mode, record skill. We're not going to go into that high level detail, but you can see the range of plugins that they offer. And there's a new area here called Ask for Approval. This basically allows you to be the human in the loop in this question, and you can even approve it for me, or you can ask it for approval each time. Over here, you've got a way to toggle the model. Now, in the other version, it was fairly simple, but this is much more advanced. If you open it up, you can actually toggle through the model and whether you want it faster or smarter. You can even jump between models like Terra, Luna, and even 5.5 and 5.4 mini if you're looking to save tokens on your account. So there's even an F level. Ultra is super high, much more complex, barely makes many mistakes depending on what you're doing, and Light is great for saving tokens but using the power of the model. And over on this right-hand side, you've got a place to hold and dictate. I could say something like, hello, hello, hello. And as you can see, it's going to dictate that straight into the ChatGPT box here. Down here is where ChatGPT Work is a bit different. You can choose a project you want to work on. So in this case, you can pick one of the projects that you've got inside of your ChatGPT account that may have a whole history and context of things that you're working on, things that you've already been chatting with for some time. For example, some of these could be helpful, or you can start a new project. So here you'll notice that there's a little computer icon, and that's because it's correlated to a file or folder system on my laptop. Now that's what makes this beneficial. It can access local folders and files, of course, based on your permissions and setup and security, whatever makes sense for you, but allows you to do a lot more. It can create stuff, it can be able to pull stuff, and that's really, really helpful. So in this example, I could pull up any of the documents that I've got on my device and be able to interact with them straight away. So as you can see, I can connect it and it's all connected just here. Now, before we move on, let's look at the plugins. Plugins are great if you want to be able to use things like creation of documents or connect plugins that you already have. So for example, I've got two plugins connected, Todoist and Google Calendar, and I could just app mention them, which means that it will pull that information as you're interacting with it. So if I want to say, I want you to do this in this area, I can tag that and it's a lot more simple. So before we move on, I wanted to talk a little bit about this area. You can see that there's an area called scheduled, and that will be one of my use cases. I'll talk about how you can use scheduled to save yourself on routine items and tasks. Plugins is the area you can find all of the relevant plugins. There's more extreme ones like computer usage, which allows you to actually control your laptop for you. And there's even more softer ones like the ability to connect with a popular app like Notion or ClickUp or Dropbox. There's some in between, like Chrome, like the ability to control your Chrome window, which for some people might be overkill, but you can see the capabilities and the range of them all from here and choose which one is right for you. Now, before we move on, I did explain that there is a separate area called Codex. This is more for building code-based apps. So if you're looking to build more sites, more apps themselves and external stuff, internal stuff, whatever it may be, much more capable stuff, then that's where to go. Work will probably be a great productivity tool for yourself. Before we move on, today's video is sponsored by Granola. It's my go-to meeting tool, and it's a great way to transcript your meetings and do so much more with AI when you're in your next meeting. So download it below. There will be a deal below to get 3 months if you decide to upgrade from free to premium. That's 3 months free if you include the link in the description. So my first demo is really for those who are potentially founders, creators, or maybe those who just want to be able to have a daily briefing of their whatever they want, really. It's totally up to you, but I'm going to give you an example of how you can use a calendar and the tasks in this relevancy. And we're going to start in the scheduled area. So if you go over to scheduled tasks, I can go over to create. And as you can see, it's got a demo example here. So our first use case is a way to create a morning briefing of what you like, but I'm going to demonstrate it for myself In this case, it's going to be really helpful for founders and creators, but anyone who wants to wake up and see a little report or insight that they can use as they start their day. So I'm going over to scheduled area. I've created a new one. And one thing here is if you're struggling to think through this, there is a way to create this with ChatGPT, which you can just talk with it and formulate your prompt. But in this case, we're going to go in this pre-created one. And I'm going to think of this as a use case for myself. So I'm going to call this one calendar and Todoist. And I'm going to say something like this: review today's calendar and Todoist tasks and identify what must happen today. Flag anything that won't fit and build a realistic plan around my meetings. Move lower priority items into a separate list for review and don't reschedule anything without asking. So we can run this on the cloud or on my device. I'm going to run this on the cloud mainly because the plugins work there. And the second thing is I want to be able to open my phone and see this straight away in the morning. So I'm going to click cloud. So if you did want to run this on device, it's more powerful because obviously you'll be able to open your laptop, and once your laptop's open, you'll be able to access things like local storage and files, which may be more secure for you and more reliable, especially if you've got things like more complex spreadsheets, documentation, and things like that. So I'm going to repeat this every day at 8 a.m. and I'm going to go ahead and create. So as you can see, the next run will be in 19 hours. I'm going to go ahead, and at any given point, I can go ahead and pause this if I do want to from here. A really helpful piece of advice when building these is to be more outcome focused versus very general. For example, if you were writing something like this, talk like, okay, I want you to help me with today's realistic plan versus I want you to be my chief of staff. That's very generic and that won't go down well when producing results. So because that's running in 19 hours, this is what an example of a output might be. And that's great because you can access it on your phone and see the outputs and what apps were connected. This now works with any of the ChatGPT plugins that you have in mind that your app works with. Our next demo, I want to picture yourself as a marketing lead. So what you've got is you want to turn research that you've collected from customers into a potential launch plan that brings your product a bit more to life. So in this case, I am going to work inside a dedicated project that's locally on my device. Inside that folder, I have a product brief. I have customer interviews where I've interacted directly with customer, got their feedback about the product, and it's got rough metrics as well, all inside the folder system I've created. So I've given it access to the folder system. In this case, it's brought in the items there, but you can if you want. So I've attached all of the folders and files, and you can work off a local folder if that's more suitable. I'm going to go ahead and change the effort to just high because I don't think this is something too intense for it to do. And I'm going to ask it a simple question. So I'm going to ask it to produce a clean research summary, launch checklist, and a meeting deck outline. And as you can see up in the corner, it's brought in the sources that it's using to complete the job. Up here, it's going to put the outputs that it creates. So it's asking permission whether it accesses the folder, which is very helpful. And I'm going to press allow once. Up here, remember, I can do things like pin the chat, rename the chat, and archive it. But there's actually this feature that's quite helpful called open side chat. This is really great if you've got particular questions that you want to ask in the background. It's temporary and will close when the app disappears, but it's just great for being able to still using chat and maybe even unpacking some other things whilst being able to run something in the background. That's something a few people know about this. So what's really nice is any side chats you have running whilst you've got the window open, you can see it over here and you can pop them open if you want to, which is great if you've got any queries or questions. You can also see whether you want just the side panel or the interface where you see things going on in the background. Now, while this is running, if you're feeling particularly you want to be able to understand how the AI is working or just get a sense of how it's operating, then you can actually click into these and see what it's doing in the background. And over here, you can open up the code. It's just very interesting sometimes to see what type of processes it's making and how that's impacting your work. It's worked for 3 minutes now, but I just think it's quite an interesting thing to do, especially for understanding how an AI model works. So it took about 6 minutes and it's now produced what it's called a launch research pack, which is what I was wanting, something condensed into a bit of information. And you can see here that it's produced a recommendation of all of the context. So you can see here, it's actually pulled a bit of a table from all of the activations and current records that we have. We want to be able to see where we can go with allocating marketing spend. And you can see here that it's basically pulled together what customers are hiring Pulse Board to do. And it gives typical things that it thinks would be a suitable recommendation for you. So our final example is if you're an operations manager and you want to be able be able to analyze a performance spreadsheet. So we've got a spreadsheet in mind, and we're going to ask some relevant questions and use ChatGPT work and really produce the best result we can. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new chat. I'm going to paste this prompt that I have, and I'm going to attach a file that we've got in place here. And I'm going to add the weekly business model, and I'm going to go ahead and run this. Now, while it's working in the background, I wanted to point out a few additional things that you have in mind. So while we're waiting for that weekly report to come up, I've got this thing here called goals, and you can attach them to any of the projects you're working on. And these are better for those who are trying their best to think towards an objective that they don't know how to hit. So for example, something like, I want to be able to launch a web app, but I currently am on iOS only. And that's a goal because you're setting something, I want to be able to do this, but I have no idea how to get there. So what it's doing there is it's working through that and it's trying to pursue the goal in mind. So as you can see here, it's suggesting here that you can use the share ads to home because it hasn't got much context. But down here, I can modify the goal, see that it's stalled, edit the goal, continue it, or even delete it and get rid of it, hide it, which is a helpful way to allow chat to have some context and push it through what the objective is for the end of the session that you're working on. So another mode that might be helpful is this one called plan mode. And it is great if you're thinking about a particular problem. I want to lose 5 kilograms by 3 weeks. And what this is going to do is ask you questions and carry on prompting you until the answer is objective and helps you to produce either a prompt or a way forward. So as you can see, a little recommendation comes up here. You can actually prompt your own, or you can say, no concerns, and give it basically some thoughts. Obviously, you don't want to probably do it for health. It's probably not recommended, but at the same time, it's good for unpacking a problem that you don't fully understand it. All about that planning phase and so helpful. So I just want to hop back to what we were creating as an operations manager. And you can see now it's producing something called step 1, step 2, step 3, and it's giving you an outline of where you are in stage and exactly what it's building for you. So this is really helpful because it gives you a better perspective into what you're working on and how it's actually actioning it, what stage it's at, and it's going to come back and help with that, as well as being able to narrow down the prompts, of course. So it's just created and come back with the report of the metrics, and it's cleaned it up, and it's given me a few key anomalies as well, including what the notes are. For example, it said support ticket spike about the import bug, and it's really neatened these up with conversion rates. Now that's very helpful for someone that might be struggling with being able to just produce a better formed report, and it can help do that in a much better fashion. So a few tips that might be helpful if you're using ChatGPT work for the first time. And the best one is to always ask for approval. This is really helpful, primarily because you want to be able to understand how the system works. If you're running routine items, it's better to use the scheduled area, but for the approvals, that's very helpful for being able to produce the best results. The next tip I have is to only attach the connectors that are suitable for the scenario. For example, use the app mentions to connect up apps like Todoist, Google Calendar, and many more, but don't necessarily connect up everything because it will just take the load out of being able to produce the end result. So I hope this helped you get an idea for ChatGPT work. Remember, you can download it on desktop and on mobile and on web, and it works on the cloud through the web and mobile version, but desktop, you can access local files. Thank you very much for stopping by. If you want to check out our Gemini notebook video, you can. That will help you guide you through that. And we've also done a video on Claude Cowork, very similar to what we're seeing with ChatGPT work. Thanks very much. Do subscribe, and thanks to Granola for sponsoring today's video. Thanks very much, and I'll see you very soon. Cheerio.